Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Ray Tampa Podcast. Our podcast offers bold commentary on various subject matters with a laser-like focus on the truth. My name is Ray Tampa, and I'm the host of the Ray Tampa Podcast. Today, we have in our studio two very talented and intelligent gentlemen, Mr. Russell Cato and Mr. Jamie Wilson III. My co-host, we're going to discuss a subject matter that we feel demands high levels of sensitivity, care, and dignity. Black male suicide can't be denied as a matter of the highest importance. Before we dive into our discussion, I would like to share with our listening audience a little information about who we are. Who are we? First, we're all born and raised right here, St. Petersburg, Florida. We were all educated in Pinellas County schools. We're all professionals, 2 retired educators, and 1 longtime physical therapist. We're all proud family men. Neither of us is in the field of mental health counseling, but we all know how to read articles and research papers on the subject matter. We all communicate extensively with residents in our community, and we all feel very confident in our abilities to handle such a sensitive discussion. Just as we don't need to have a degree in atmospheric science or meteorology to talk about the weather, we don't need a degree in psychiatry to talk about mental health, as long as we know our limits. Again, as long as we know our limits. Now, all of that was said because someone asked, are you all ready to handle such a subject matter? Yes, we are. An article written by Maya Nigel Hoskin, PhD, and medically reviewed by Arifa Kasubi, MD, MPH, on May 17, 2022, appeared in the journal Everyday Health. The article's title is 5 Reasons Suicide is on the Rise in the Black Community, according to a psychiatrist. The following excerpts should assist in sounding the alarm to the seriousness of this issue, as previously stated. Quote, 2 devastating losses to suicide in the Black community marked the beginning of 2022. The deaths of attorney, former Miss USA, activist, and entertainment correspondent Chelsea Christ, and of the upcoming DJ and songwriter Ian King Jr., who is also the son of Academy Award-winning actress Regina King. The deaths of Chris and King sent shockwaves through the Black community and among fans at large. Both were young. Chris was 30. King turned 26, just days before taking his life. Both were successful and appeared to have the world at their fingertips. End of quote. In continuation, the article says, quote, sadly, Chris and King are not alone. Their deaths have shed light on an ongoing and alarming issue: increasing rates of suicide among Black Americans. Between 2014 and 2019, rates of suicide among Black people in the United States increased by 30%, according to data published in May 2021 in JAMA Network Open. End of quote. I want to state that again. Suicide among Black people in the United States increased by 30%, according to data published in May 2021 in JAMA Network Open. End of quote. Quote, a report published in November 2021 by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention showed that although the overall rate of suicide in the United States decreased by 3% in 2020, the rate of suicide actually increased among many men of color, including Black men. During this time, during that particular time, between 2011 and 2020, the suicide rate among Black men was 3 times that of Black women. The Suicide Prevention Resource Center reports. Again, 3 times that of Black women. Furthermore, the article says, quote, equally alarming, the United States Department of Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health found that suicide was the second leading cause of death among Black people ages 15 to 24 in 2019. ... End of quote. Quote, according to Patricia Harris, MD, Everyday Health's Chief Health and Medical Editor, and the first Black woman elected president of the American Medical Association, she discusses 5 factors likely contributing to the increase. 5 factors likely contributing to the increase. Number 1, social media ramps up pressure to fit in. Number 2, mental health stigma impedes Black people from seeking help. Number 3, treatment is often less accessible to Black people. Number 4, Black people continually face racism and discrimination. Number 5, many Black people are frequently exposed to violence. There's a lot more to this article, but we'll stop it here to allow us time for discussion. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'll say this suicide epidemic has been around, since slavery. I was reading, while reading this, I was reading that it was such a big deal during slavery, like when the enslavers were crossing the bridge with some of the slaves, they put nets on the side of the bridges to keep them from trying to kill themselves, or they would force feed them so they wouldn't starve themselves. So with and it also further in my reading, this is according to Forbes.com, they were saying that Black male adolescents through 2013 to 2019 been a 47% increase. And the Black suicidologists in the same report said it was due to racism, based on basically what you said, one of the issues. I feel that this needs to be talked about. It's not a comfortable subject, but a lot of people suffer in silence. And I'm going to shift it to the men. Black men are taught to be strong, and and a lot of people think and I've heard this, it's a white person's thing, you know, you don't need this, blah, blah, blah. But it is a growing situation, and it needs to be looked at very seriously, because we are taught to be strong and power through our challenges, no matter our mental state. And we suffer in silence because we need to talk to somebody. We need to talk to someone.
Russ, what you say? Good
Yeah.
points, Jay.
Very good points that Jay has made. I think all of us can remember when we used to see each other, when we depart from each other, we used to say, please be safe and sound. Can you remember that?
Yes, yes,
Can
yes.
you remember that?
Mhm.
That safeness was the physical part of it. Be safe physically.
Mhm.
Sound is the mental part of it. Take care of your mind, man. Take care of your mind. But here's what happened. We are in a stage where we just being social idiot now.
Mhm.
People like to dehumanize people.
Mhm.
I look at the former president of the United States, just how he dehumanized people.
Mhm.
People don't want to be dehumanized. But that's a form of depression
Mhm.
that you're telling people that you ain't worth shit.
Mhm.
That's what he does. And these people applaud Jamie to this kind of
Mhm.
thing. They
Mhm.
applaud to this kind of stuff, Ray.
Yeah.
So I wish we had time to go back, Ray, and you brought it up to really look at these 5 factors, but I know we don't have the time to talk about these 5 factors because it's very important. Because what you're looking at here is 2 things, Ray: mental health and mental behavior.
Mhm.
If the mental health is not right, what do you think your mental behavior is going to
Exactly.
be? You know,
The health affects
and,
behavior.
and I can talk about this because I'm part of this. My family's a part of this. I had a daughter whose husband suicided himself. I have
Mm.
a couple of sons. I lost my son to mental health. And I'm
Mm.
trying to find another one with mental health. So
Sorry.
when you brought this up, there are 2 things that I look at: coping and accessibility.
Coping
And
and accessibility.
Mhm.
coping with it, and can we get help?
Exactly.
You see,
Exactly.
that is the thing. My first son, he coped with it, but he couldn't get the help.
Mhm.
See, my second son, he's coping, but we getting the help.
Mhm.
Hopefully, we getting the help, right? But I look at this saying coping and accessibility. Can we do that?
Well, Russ, I'll tell you, you offered some personal information, and I respect you for doing it.
Mhm.
I certainly respect you for doing it. You're offering up some very personal information that hopefully can help somebody else out there
Yeah.
listening to this.
Yeah.
You said coping with it
Coping.
and getting help with it.
Yeah,
That's the key.
yes,
Accessibility to mental health
yes,
and understanding
Mhm.
that that's what you're dealing with.
yeah,
That's what you're dealing with. I want to point out that a lot of times people are suffering with this issue alone.
Mhm.
true,
They're dealing with it alone. They don't have access to the mental health.
Mhm.
They do not have the support system in their family to get help.
Mhm.
They don't have the friends network to get help.
Mhm.
And there are people out there dealing with it alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's tragic. That's dangerous.
yeah,
Not only dangerous to the person that's dealing with it individually, but it's dangerous to the public.
Right.
Because if the person is dealing with mental health, that person is liable to hurt a whole lot of other people.
Right.
I don't know if you all remember, but there was a guy that used to walk the streets of St. Pete, and people in general would say something like, he's dealing with something, or he's crazy, or he needs help,
mhm,
but nobody's giving him help.
Mhm.
yes,
And that individual was in the newspaper for doing something really drastic,
Mhm.
really tragic. And I don't want to quote too much about it because that individual still has a family and I don't want to
Mhm.
offend them. But the bottom line is we have to make sure that people have access
Right.
to these support systems,
Mhm.
these support agencies, et cetera, et cetera. But let's look at those 5 factors that the doctor said contribute to the increase. And then later on, we can talk about factors that contribute to mental health in and of itself. But starting with social media, ramping up pressure
Mhm.
on the kids or individuals to fit in. Can either one of you give me an example
Well-
that you think would fit that particular
Well,
description?
Right. I hear a lot about bullying. It's a lot of bullying, and these kids are, imagine, as soon as you turn on your computer, you got all these boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Some would say, well, just turn it off. But it's not that easy if that's what everybody is doing. If that's their era, that's these kids' era. The internet, talking, social media, blah, blah, blah. That's their era. We from a different area. We didn't start out with this stuff, but this is all they know. So we just can't say turn it off. You know what I mean? And social, and some of these kids are mean, boy. They,
man.
you know, and they'll say,
Oh,
you know, you should
man.
kill yourself. You're ugly. You're fat. You're this. You're that.
Yeah.
So they're really cruel. And also, not only that, you also gotta look at the medical standpoint. Sometimes there's a chemical imbalance that can cause depression. You know what I mean? And I was even thinking about the guy that you were talking about, the person you were talking about. Some people that you're saying that they were saying something's wrong with him.
Right.
Think about a lot of these school shootings. Whether these people are black or white, they want death by police, and that's a form of suicide. Because they're ready, like, I'm taking everybody with me. I know I'm going out, but that's still sickness. It's still, and like you said, Russ, it's got to be facilities where these people can go. You can talk about it, you can advertise it, but in these communities, and right now I'm talking about our community. In our community, these grants and these businesses, that needs to be one of these businesses, along with church. Because I look at aspects of church as part of therapy for someone you can talk to. But aside of that, you need, they're not professionals at church. They're spiritual uplifters and spiritual strengtheners, but you need professionals. And not to seem racist or anything, which I'm not, but you need black therapists for black people in some of our areas. We do, like black suicidologists or black therapists to talk about our issues, because our kids and our kids, young adults, adolescents, what have you, they're going to be more, they're going to respond more to these people. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them have grown up the way these kids grew up, and they can relate, and they can tell the story, so they can relate. Because these pressures, man, that suffering in silence, it's got to be rough.
Okay, good. Russ, do you have an example you want to talk about in terms of social media?
Piggyback off.
James. Okay.
James said.
Okay.
And what social media has come to now is called cyberbullying.
Mm-hmm.
It is big. It is big at my place. I can see it every day. Where a kid can get on one of these things and punch their name in,
Mm-hmm.
and it really affects another kid. But it's that's cyberbullying. I don't know how we can stop it, right? It's a big thing that it's really hurting these families, hurting these kids, and hurting these families. Because what they put on these things right here towards another kid, it is hard. It is hard. How do you stop it? I really don't know.
It's really hard to police the internet. Yeah, they'll remove you, and then 2 months later they allow you to come back on because they're making money off of it some type of way. It's really hard. I mean, this is like a cloud thing. You can't really control it. You know what I mean? Unless parents step in and monitor more what their kids are doing and saying.
But they can't do it 24/7.
I understand that.
can't.
That's why I say it's hard to police.
I can do-
It's hard to
That's
police.
the problem. Well, let's move to another one of the 5 factors that contribute to the increase of suicides in our community. Let's talk about treatment is often less accessible
Mhm.
to Black
Surely,
people.
Surely, I can
And-
be a person on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
talk to me, Russ.
Yes, because with my son, my second one right now, was going through this stage, he was arrested. And they put him in jail, James,
Mhm.
you know, because he's a black kid.
Mhm.
And they think because what he has done, that's just a part of your criminality over here. Not knowing that this kid is sick. This kid got a mental health problem.
Mhm.
Nobody's saying nothing about that. And if I didn't have my former wife fighting for this, because I didn't know too much how to get to do
Mhm.
this myself.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, I knew there were contact, but because of my former wife, she really knew how to fight this.
Okay.
And because of her, that's how we've been successfully able to get this kid some help.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Because other than that,
Excellent.
when they
Excellent.
locked him up, Ray, I saw, oh man, Ray, they had him in isolation.
Mhm.
And I called him one day and he said, Paul, he said, I don't even know what day it is.
Mm.
He didn't even know what day. So basically, when he went in isolation, he lost it. He became insane,
Mhm. Mhm.
you see. And it's amazing.
Well, the prison system in and of itself
Yeah.
will cause people to lose their
That's
minds.
what happened with him.
Will
Yeah.
cause people to lose their minds.
Yeah.
And what you're saying about your son, multiply your son's experiences by thousands of others,
Yes.
by thousands of others.
Right. The problem is if crimes are committed while having mental illness, we're seen as criminals.
Yeah.
We're not seeing as like a white dude could shoot up 8 schools and
Yeah.
it's a mental health issue. But when we do it, we're criminals, we're terrorists. And that's the problem. And it's not talked about enough in our community, in our culture.
Yeah.
I mean, and we need it within our communities. We need places where, you know, like what you're saying, that an outlet or places where we can take our loved ones when it's an issue, and with people that look like us and understands our, you know, the constant racism, the systematic racism, all the stuff that we go through, and you know, and we need that in our communities, and we need the schools to be a part of it, the churches, everybody. We need, that's what we need, because the mental illness is real, and it's sort of a new thing to me. I mean, yeah, it always existed, but it's a new talked about thing. But it's affecting our loved ones, and we get treated different in the systems.
Well, let me ask you this here, if you don't mind. Now, we're on the subject of treatment is often less accessible to Black people.
Mhm.
Besides what you were talking about and you were talking about, we can just 1 or 2 word list a whole lot of things.
Mhm.
Poverty
Yeah.
makes it inaccessible.
Mhm.
You know, financial hardships,
Oh, yeah.
or not enough mental health counselors in the general vicinity
True.
where the people live.
True.
People that live in the rural areas may not even have a counselor
Mhm.
anywhere near where they live. And they may not have transportation to get to a mental health counselor. So they, again, have to deal with it
Mhm.
without having that support. And sometimes these people need constant monitoring.
Correct.
They need constant therapy,
Yes. Yes.
but yet it's not there. Some other reasons that treatment is less often accessible. Believe it or not, there are doctors that will say they're not taking new patients.
Yeah.
There are doctors out there that will say
Yeah.
we are not taking new patients. So even if the doctor is in the vicinity, the doctor may not desire LGBTQ mental health patients at this time,
Right. Right.
or any other descriptive
Mhm.
description of a patient.
Right.
So treatment, often less accessible to Black people, is real,
Right.
is very real.
Right.
Russ, I cut you off. What were you gonna say?
No, what you're saying is true too. One of the things I wanted to say too with my son, it was a funny thing was, in order to get help for my son, it was necessary for, and I hate to say this and I'm gonna say it. I could have gotten a Black person, or we could have gotten a Black person to put in some words,
Mm.
but it wouldn't help.
Mhm.
We had to get a white person.
Mhm.
we had to get a white person to write about Jason. I don't want to call his name. That this boy needs help.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this lady wrote a beautiful article, and that's how he got in, Ray. Through this person writing about him. We could have done it other ways. I could have gotten someone else to do it. But the society looks sometimes different when white people do things to black people.
Mhm.
I want to say that.
Yeah, yeah. You're not lying.
Mhm.
You're not lying.
Mhm.
Well, let's move to another one. And Jamie, you hit on this when you were talking earlier. But one of the other factors likely contributing to the increase of suicide is Black people continually face racism and discrimination.
Mhm. Mhm.
Continually face racism and discrimination.
Mhm.
One of you want to talk about that in particular?
We live it, you know, we all live it. But it's just this thing, you know, and I'm gonna say from a man's point, you're trying to provide for your family, you know, issues at work, just all around issues. You feel like the world is on your back. You're constantly knocked down. The majority is people that don't look like you at the job, and you know, it's just so many things. Your pay get cut. I mean, that's depression. That's depression. Then you may go home and take it out on your family. You know what I mean? Arguments, this and that, just depression. So there is a lot of issues. And then from a religious standpoint, we're taught to take it to the Lord, right? But those at church are not mental health professionals.
Exactly.
They may provide some vehicles to get you there, you know, by who they know or who they can reach out to. Maybe they have some relationships they can get you. But I still feel we need this in our community. We need a type of outreach in our community.
Yes. You see, I'm going to take it back over Jamie again. When you have structure of systemic racism, you have a feeling of frustration of depression. Okay, how you look at it.
Mhm.
Okay, how you look at it. That's what racism brings to us when you have a structure. That's what systemic racism. You put us in a bind, you keep us in a box so you know where we are. You can't do things without, you know, all of these things. And that leads to depression.
Yes, depression.
It does.
Depression in general
Yes.
just covers a multitude of things.
Yes, it does.
Depression covers so much. We can talk about depression that is a result of a failed relationship.
Mhm. Mhm.
We can talk about depression as a result of physical ailments.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Depression as a result of financial hardships.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Depression as a result of the sorrow from
Mhm.
losing a loved one.
Exactly.
Failed efforts to achieve coveted goals. Jealousy, envy
Mhm.
causes depression.
Yeah.
Inadequate nutrition causes depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old age and dependency
I was hoping-
Right.
causes depression.
Right.
Depression is the overarching term that causes so much concern in our community.
But-
All of these things I named affect our community more so than they affect others.
Think about this here. I got two gay cousins. Think about you going to church, you serving the Lord your whole life, and you hear the preacher saying, you know, basically, if you're gay, it's a sin, you're going to hell. And you hearing that your whole life.
Yes.
Don't you think you'll be depressed?
Yes.
Think
Yes.
about how many suicides or whatever has been because of that. So it's a lot of stresses.
Yes.
It's a lot of stresses, man.
Man, I say I really appreciate the two of you. I really, really appreciate the two of you. We're at the point that I hate. We have to wrap it up. It's only a 30-minute show. That being the case, I want to say to my co-hosts, as I've said over and over, thank you for the contributions that you bring to this program. I want to say to our listening audience, we appreciate you tuning in to the Ray Tampa podcast each and every Tuesday, 5:30 p.m., 99.1 FM, The Bird. I want to also say, as we always do, sponsorships are welcome. Now, we had a lot to say, but there's so much more to be said.
So much more.
So what I want to end this program by saying, listening audience, if you're in need of help, or if you know of someone in need of help, please call the suicide hotline for immediate help. 24/7. The number 727-791-3131. Again, the suicide hotline for immediate help. 727-791-3131. We didn't get into resources for help, but you call this number, you get all the information you need. You get all the help you need. Please take advantage of it. With all of that being said, good evening.